Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL. Today, we've got a full slate of updates to break down for you. This is the 159th episode of Hawks Latest presented by FanArt, so hopefully you guys have been enjoying the ride. I know I have. That was special thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring today's video. And before this video gets started, if you guys could go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, it would be very much appreciated, and it would go a very long way. But like I said, yeah, we got a whole lot to break down today because, while we've gotten at least like 24 hours to digest the news and really take it all in and kind of soak up, what was one era and now moving on to another era. It's been a busy time, and with that comes a lot of things to talk about after nearly 8 seasons, nearly 8 full seasons, countless memorable performances, and one of the most significant playoff runs in franchise history. The Hawks obviously made the decision to move on from the face of the organization. As I'm sure you all know, Trae Young has been traded to the Washington Wizards, bringing back CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert to Atlanta in a move that, really kind of signals a full philosophical shift for Atlanta, just in general. And for some reason, the deal is not finalized yet, at least at the time of this recording. So there could be something brewing there. Obviously, Trae is still going to be heading to Washington, and Atlanta will be receiving those guys in return. But maybe they're looking to expand it to a 3-team deal. Maybe it's nothing, and maybe there's just no holdup, and they're just not announcing it yet for whatever reason. I honestly do not know why the trade is being held up right now, but it is. And so, yeah, this, regardless, is the end of an era and the beginning of another. It's a new chapter centered around the one and the only Jaylen Johnson. But not just him. It's a full youth movement, and we're going to focus on the youth development and the roster flexibility, financial flexibility, and a redefined identity for this franchise. So in today's video, we're going to relate to all of that. We'll begin by breaking down comments from none other than superstar Luka Doncic of the LA Lakers, because he had something to say after the Trae Young trade. He had an immediate post-game, after the game against the Spurs where the Lakers actually lost. Luka was asked about the Trae Young trade, and so what he said was pretty interesting. It's comments that bring the infamous 2018 draft night deal full circle. I'm sure you all know that deal that I'm talking about, how Trae even ended up in Atlanta in the first place, and then we'll dive into Derik Queen, because he had Derik Queen had an unsuccessful revenge game against Atlanta, and so we're going to talk about why that moment matters more than the box score. A lot of outside factors there, some beef between fan bases. It's a very interesting segment. And then finally, before we get to our viewer comments section, we're going to preview Hawks game day against the Denver Nuggets, because guess what? The boys are back in action tonight. We got the Denver Nuggets, a very good Western Conference team, and it's going to be their first road test of the post-Trae Young era. So without further ado, I know that was a lot. We got a lot to break down, so let's waste no more time and go ahead and start and jump right in talking about the comments that Luka Doncic made regarding Trae Young. So, the Trae Young era in Atlanta ends the same way it began. Somewhat, I guess, tied to Luka Doncic. I don't, y'all know how I feel about Luka. Very, very talented player, and him and Trae are going to be forever linked. And now neither are with the franchise that drafted them or traded them on draft night, so always going to be linked. Nearly 8 years ago, we all know exactly what happened. We got a few more months before it gets to the 8-year anniversary, but it was one of the most polarizing decisions maybe in NBA history. I mean, this technically, I guess, now that both of their tenures in the city that drafted them, like, both of them are over. But I guess that you can call it a win-win, because Atlanta selected Luka Doncic 3rd overall and immediately traded him to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for Trae Young and a future first-round pick. It was a controversial move at the time. It's a controversial move now. Like, people still talk about it. Like, what if the Hawks kept Luka Doncic? What if the Mavericks never traded away Trae Young for Luka Doncic? The entire landscape of the NBA would be different right now. So the future first round pick that Atlanta acquired in that deal later became Cam Reddish, but the centerpiece of the deal was always Trey. And Trey was always going to be a Hawk. I mean, this, a lot of everyone can talk about hypotheticals and what would have happened if Trey and Luka were never traded for each other, and what if Atlanta held on to Luka, Dallas held on to Trey. Like everyone can talk about that. But the reality of the situation is, and knowing and talking to people, this was never going like Trey was always going to be a Hawk. Luka was always going to be a Maverick. Luka, it was decided months before the draft that he was going to be a Dallas Maverick. I mean, he had been hanging out with Dirk Nowitzki months before the draft. That was set in stone. That was destiny. And so it's crazy that he was even dealt. But now Trae Young has been dealt. So from the moment the trade was announced on draft night, comparisons were inevitable between the two. Every Trae Young performance was weighed against, Luka Doncic success. I mean, honestly, I kind of got involved in that. I didn't kind of get involved in that. I got involved in that a lot. I held a bias towards Luka, and especially in the beginning of his career, because I was very much on the Trae Young train. I still am on the Trae Young train, but it's a little bit different now, considering he's no longer on the Atlanta Hawks. But yeah, like these guys were being compared to each other every single day. Despite playing in different conferences and under different circumstances, the two were permanently linked, fairly or unfairly. Now, nearly a decade later, the cycle has come full circle because Trae Young has been traded to the Washington Wizards, while Luka Doncic, after his own blockbuster move last season, now suits up for the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm sure you all remember exactly where you were when the Luka Doncic trade went down. That was, the most shocking trade in NBA history. I remember exactly where I was. It's not too much of an exciting story, so I'm not gonna sit here and bore you guys with a little bit of story time about where I was during the Luka Doncic trade. But it's just a boring, funny little story. But yeah, I mean, it was completely out of I never would have expected a player of Luka Doncic's caliber to be traded at 25 years old to the Lakers. I mean, it was just so unexpected. I could be on that tangent for like an hour, so I'm not gonna do all that. But yeah, after the Lakers' recent loss to the San Antonio Spurs, Doncic was asked about Trae Young being dealt to Washington because both of those games kind of wrapped up at similar times. His response was thoughtful, respectful, and revealing. Doncic, in response, said, "Obviously, we got traded for each other, so there has been a lot of talk about me and him. We have a great relationship. I have a lot of respect for him, and if he's excited about this new journey, then I am excited for him." I mean, that quote says a lot because, people have always tried to put Trae and Luka kind of against each other. They've tried to pry them apart, but, Luka has always spoken highly of Trae Young, and vice versa. Trae has always spoken highly of Luka. There's a mutual respect between the two because they know they're forever linked. I mean, the two have both shared all-star appearances, mutual respect, and a clear understanding that neither controls any sort of the circumstance that they were drafted into. And so, him mentioning that if Trae's excited about his new journey, then he's excited for him. That's just good to see because if anyone knows what it's like to be dealt mid-season, it's Luka Doncic because, like I said, was involved in probably the craziest trade in NBA history. And so yeah, it's good to see that I mean, Luka's doing well with the Lakers right now, and so there is stuff to be excited about for Trae. And so a fresh start is what Luka got, and it's what Trae is about to get from whenever he suits up with the Washington Wizards, because there was that report that Trae may not suit up much for the Wizards this season. That's very interesting. Honestly, I probably should have had a whole segment about that in today's episode. Maybe we'll do it in Monday's episode. But yeah, it's a bittersweet moment for Hawks fans. I mean, Trae Young leaves Atlanta as one of the greatest players in franchise history. I mean, he's the Hawks' all-time leader in assists and three-pointers and was the architect of the team's improbable 2021 Eastern Conference Finals run. But at the same time, like I said, fresh start. The organization clearly decided it was time to move forward. But this is all a reflection of direction. Wow, that was kind of a tongue twister. But Atlanta's choosing to pivot towards size, versatility, and balance with Jaylen Johnson like we said earlier, emerging as the new cornerstone of the franchise. And fittingly, one of the final voices to weigh in on Trey's departure is the man that he will forever be linked to. So I just thought that was very interesting. Shout out Luka for showing love to our guy Trey, even though he's no longer on our team. He's always going to be our guy. So now moving on, we've got a very interesting segment because Derik Queen and Hawks fans and all of the above. They've been beefing for some months, and it's a bit unnecessary, honestly. But you know what? We like this drama. This is very fun. This is very interesting to cover. Wednesday night's matchup between the Atlanta Hawks and the New Orleans Pelicans was never just another regular season game, and that's kind of weird to say because it's two opponents who only play each other twice a year. One at home, one away. Vice versa. I mean, they are not in the same conference. It had limited playoff implications. I mean, on paper, this should not be a matchup that was exciting. In the last episode, we had a full breakdown of what happened in that game. It was also in the midst of the Trae Young trade, so we didn't spend too much time on that, but it was a fun game. And so, this is a little side story of that deal. So like this game specifically, like I said, on paper, should not have any sort of weight, but in reality, it carried layers of history and tension and also some unfinished business, particularly for rookie big man Derik Queen, who, we spent like when this channel first got started, it was in the off season. We were breaking down a lot of prospects, and so we spent a lot of time talking about Derik Queen as a prospect because he was someone who I was at least a little bit interested in the Hawks selecting. Now, I don't think he would be a good fit for the Hawks. It could have been, a decent thing offensively, but so far I'm not really enjoying watching Derik Queen. Like, he has been a guy who has gotten a lot of love from people within NBA media circles because he's been much better than many expected. But he is a very, 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 very poor defensive player. And, being 6'10" and a big man and being a poor defensive player, being kind of slow on that end, while being just a guy who's kind of like an offensive hub who has to, have the ball a lot. I don't know. He's a weird archetype, and so I wish him the best in his career. I don't know if he's gonna be someone who can win, and maybe I'm just being a hater, but so far I'm not really enjoying the Derik Queen experience. And if I was a Pelican, if this was Pelicans' latest, I wouldn't be enjoying it at all. The roots of this matchup, trace back to the 2024 offseason between the Hawks and the Pelicans, when Atlanta traded DeJounte Murray to the New Orleans Pelicans in exchange for Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance Jr., and 2 first-round picks. I mean, holy fleece. At the time the deal was scrutinized, people were like, what are the Hawks doing? I mean, just straight casuals, just doubting our guy Landry Fields, who clearly, made the right decision here. But yeah, nearly 2 years later, it's clear that the Hawks won that trade decisively. I mean, it's not even close. Dyson Daniels has blossomed in Atlanta, and while he may be having a bit of a down season scoring-wise this year, I mean, his playmaking and his rebounding and his defense, like, all are continuing to take leaps. I mean, I don't know if his defense is taking a leap this year, but his rebounding and his playmaking have, tremendously. I mean, look at the numbers from last year compared to this year when you're looking specifically at his rebounds and his assists. I mean, he's doing all the things other than scoring because for some reason his three-point shooting just decided to fall off the cliff this year. So that sucked, but that doesn't tell the full story about Dyson's game. And so last year, he averaged 14.1 points and 3 steals per game. He also earned the 2025 Most Improved Player. He added some hardware, got rewarded for his incredible season. He should have also brought home a Defensive Player of the Year award, but they were never going to give an Atlanta Hawk 2 awards like that. Are you kidding me? The Hawks getting that much respect? No. That would never happen. It's unfortunate. And if you look at the Pelicans side, DeJounte Murray, former Hawk, was there for 2 years. He has just appeared in 31 total games for the New Orleans Pelicans through 2 seasons due to injuries and inconsistency. It has not been a picture perfect or even okay tenure in New Orleans for Murray. But the story didn't end there between the Hawks and the Pelicans. The Hawks fleeced them once. Why not fleece them again? The following offseason, Atlanta and New Orleans struck another deal. This time it was on draft night. the Pelicans aggressively, I mean, one of the made probably the most aggressive move of the offseason. They traded up to select Derik Queen. They saw the Hawks were on the board. They were like, yeah, let's go ahead and get Queen. Let's make a bold commitment to him. And so they were like, we don't care what we have to give up. And so they sent us a pretty nice package. They sent Atlanta the 23rd overall pick in this draft, which ended up becoming Asa Newell, who, he's not obviously not having as good of a rookie season as Derik Queen is, but like their roles are so different. If you put Asa Newell with the same volume that Derik Queen's getting, Newell would probably be outperforming him. That's conversation for another day. But it wasn't just the 23rd overall pick that was coming to Atlanta in this trade. It was their unprotected 2026 first round pick. I mean, one of the most valuable assets in the NBA. I mean, the Pelicans are probably the worst team in the NBA. I think they're the second worst by record right now. They've lost 9 games in a row, and they do not have their first overall pick. Well, not first overall pick, which is probably going to be the first overall pick, but they don't have their first round pick because it is in the hands of general manager Anzi Saleh. Just an absolute fleece. And so, because of it being such a fleece and being acknowledged as a fleece immediately, but also still being acknowledged as a fleece because of the way the Pelicans are performing, it stunned league observers, league personnel, media circles. Everyone was like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? They traded their unprotected pick next year just to move up 10 spots and select Derik Queen, where they probably could have got a few picks later. I mean, it seems a little bit ridiculous. New Orleans was already viewed as at best, like at peak, like a fringe play-in team. Like the best they could have possibly been this season was the 10 seed. I mean, fully healthy. The best they could have been was the 10 seed. And so they were like, screw it. Derik Queen is the next, I don't know, like Shaq, Nikola Jokic. I don't know. Like I don't know what they were thinking here, but all of this aside, well, not all of this aside, but like because of all of this, there was so much pressure on a rookie big man to justify the move. I mean, Derik Queen entered his first NBA season with all the pressure in the world because it is up to him to determine whether this was a fleece by Atlanta or not. I mean, the jobs depend on Derik Queen being a successful NBA player, which is why I don't want to hate too much because the young man's got a lot of pressure on him. But with all of this, Derik Queen has taken it personally, for better or for worse, for right or for wrong. Derik Queen took all of this personally. Being traded on draft night is never an easy thing. I plead with the people that are, traded on draft night because, you're filled with emotions. You're filled with anxiousness. I mean, you're finding out where you're going to live for the foreseeable future. Basketball aside, the draft night is very, it's very important for the players that are being, and their families and everything aside. So being traded on draft night already puts a chip on your shoulder. I mean, Queen made it clear, I mean, through his play and later through social media that, he circled matchups against Atlanta. And so that tension escalated a little bit earlier this season when in the final seconds of an already decided game, I mean, the Pelicans had already accepted defeat in this game. It was the first matchup between the Hawks and the Pelicans this season. It was in New Orleans. Conveniently, the Falcons were playing at the same time in New Orleans against the Saints. So y'all are going to see why I mentioned that in just a second. I'm sure you all remember this. But in the final seconds of the game, Queen stole the ball and went coast to coast for a dunk, which was violating one of the NBA's most well-known unwritten rules. You let the players dribble the clock out when the game is already decided. How do y'all feel about the unwritten rule? Let me know all that down below in the comments. How do you feel about it? Because I mean, I'm indifferent about it. I mean, obviously, it's probably a more important thing when you're an NBA player. I've never really understood the unwritten rule, but also, there's the thing called sportsmanship. Respect for your opponent, like that stuff. So I don't know, but this is a rookie. This is a guy playing with a chip on his shoulder. But it kind of broke out in not a fight. But the Hawks did not enjoy what Queen did. I mean, I think it was Veet who kind of pressed him a little bit, we don't do that, and so it was the players post game were he'll learn, it's stuff like that. But yeah, that caused a lot of controversy. I mean, there was a lot going on there, and so the Atlanta Falcons, standing up for their NBA counterpart, who were also playing the New Orleans Saints that weekend. They took to social media to troll the rookie, which is hilarious. I mean, Atlanta's social media admins, give it up for them. we've got the best social media admins really in the United States of America. But Queen responded to the Falcons trolling them because the Falcons, they said, marked safe from Derik Queen, after defeating the Saints, which is just great. But then Queen responded by interacting with the post and actually marking the date of the next matchup, signaling that a revenge game was coming. Like, he literally tweeted January 7th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. I mean, that amount of confidence from a rookie is striking. I almost really respect it. So January 7th arrived, and it absolutely did not go the way Derik Queen envisioned. The Hawks dominated the Pelicans from start to finish. The scoreboard made it look a little closer than it was. This game was never, ever in doubt. They won 117-100, and Derik Queen, of course, struggled mightily. He finished with just 6 points on 3 of 9 shooting, consistently targeted by Atlanta's big men on both ends of the floor. He was loose with his handle. He was turning the ball over. Mo Gay was having his way with him. Kristaps was having his way with him. Who else was playing? Every big Atlanta, Asa Newell was having his way with him. Shout out Anzi Saleh for getting him with the 23rd overall pick that New Orleans just handed to us because they were so confident in Derik Queen. But yeah, Atlanta attacked him defensively. They forced him into difficult shots. They exposed the learning curve that every rookie must face. I mean, Derik Queen is talented, and shout out to the young man. He's competitive, but Wednesday night served as a very valuable reminder that the NBA humbles everyone. Talk must eventually be backed up by production, and for Queen, this was a necessary lesson. So the intrigue he brought to this game was real, but what spoke louder were the results. And Atlanta got the W, and Queen had a bad game. He was a negative on both ends of the floor. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all of the action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at Celtics versus Raptors and selecting Anthony Simons on higher than 13.5 points and Jaylen Brown for higher than 1.5 three-pointers made. Download the app today and use promo code BASKETBALLFAN to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BASKETBALLFAN. Make picks, win money. And looking at the Hawks side of things, Jaylen Johnson has got to be the safest pick on the team right now. This guy has been on a tear all season, and he's going to continue that new level of play with Trae Young now off the team. Well, reportedly, the trade has not officially gone through at the time of this recording, but regardless, we're in the Jaylen Johnson era. It is his time now. He is the number one option. It is his team. We're playing more team ball now, I guess, but it is his team. And the numbers that Jaylen has shown over the past several, really the past week, have been remarkable. I mean, if you look at his last 5 games, he has been on a tear. So 5 games ago against the New Orleans Pelicans, well, actually, no, it was against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He had a 34-point, 10 rebound, 6 assist night. He was incredible. He was shooting the ball well, and had his best scoring game in some time. And then the Hawks went on the road for a 3-game road trip. And in those 3 games, it was solid efforts from Jaylen. I think the last one of that little the last one of that little road trip, I mean, he was he started to kind of have a little bit of a rough go in the scoring department, but he was still an effective player. I mean, this is going to be an effective player regardless, but he had 18, 10, and 11 in that matchup at Madison Square Garden, so continuing his trend of triple doubles this season. And then he had 30 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists. So he got back in the scoring department, but regressed a little elsewhere, but it was still a very impactful performance despite Atlanta not picking up the win. And in that second game against Toronto, like I said, definitely wasn't an ideal performance from the scoring department, but I mean, he was crashing the glass with great aggressiveness, and it really helped Atlanta stay afloat until they couldn't anymore. I mean, that was a rough overall game, but it wasn't necessarily Jaylen's fault. He kind of got back on track last game, which was a W over the New Orleans Pelicans. He had 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. And so against the Nuggets tonight, I would expect Jaylen Johnson to have himself a night. Now that it's his team, now that he is fully acquainted into the identity of this roster as the number one guy. I expect him to continue on the trend of, just ascending because this is a great player, and I can't wait to see what he does in his first game as Atlanta's true number one option. So guess who's back in action tonight? The Atlanta Hawks, the new look Atlanta Hawks. I mean, we've got a completely different squad now. They now head west as a fundamentally different ball club. Friday night in Denver marks the first game of tonight. I don't know why I'm saying Friday night, but it marks the first game of a 4-game Western Conference road trip. I mean, the next time we're at home is on January 17th against the Boston Celtics. We've got some time before our next home game, so hopefully the guys can take care of business on the road. That would be very impressive. That would give us a whole lot of momentum going into this new era of Hawks ball. And this is the first official appearance of the Hawks without Trae Young on the roster following the blockbuster trade. And so if the deal is formally processed before tip-off, which it very well might, this is a very legit possibility, Atlanta will take the floor with, these guys won't be on the floor. As I hate to, kind of burst your bubble or talk down on what you were kind of expecting, but CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, the newly acquired Atlanta Hawks, if this trade is made official, there's no way these guys play tomorrow. I mean, I would be shocked. They'll probably be on the bench. If it is finalized, I wouldn't be surprised if CJ and Corey were on the bench with the guys, but even that's a little bit of a long shot. I mean, that is a quick turnaround. I mean, the Hawks are playing in Denver. They might want to wait until maybe the home game against the Celtics. I mean, I don't know if we want to wait that long though. I mean, we are missing some depth, and so I don't know. It's a little bit interesting, but it will be it's going to be different because Trae's not going to be there and with the team or in the locker room or it is going to be fully up to this young group to really kind of accept their new identity, accept their new roles, and blossom, flourish. I mean, Risa Shea specifically is someone who may benefit from this. He's not a guy who I expected to kind of be a major, post Trae Young piece, but without Trae Young last game, he shot 7 of 9 from 3. He had a season high 25 points. So I mean, clearly there's some added confidence in his game, which I don't really know where it came from, but it's here. We are here in the present, and Risa Shea is playing well. His past 6 quarters, he's been playing really, really high level basketball. So if he can continue on that trend tonight against the Nuggets, the Hawks are going to be in really, really good shape to potentially steal a victory over one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. With Trae sidelined for most of the season, even prior to the blockbuster trade, Jaylen Johnson has already taken on a starring role, averaging 23.5 points, 10.3 rebounds, and 8.3 assists per game. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has also emerged as a key offensive weapon and honestly playing like an all-star. He's averaging 20.4 points per game on the season, which is, a career high by a wide margin. Meanwhile, Kristaps Porzingis remains a little bit of a wild card. He's averaging 17.1 points on the season, so already a little bit underwhelming, but you got to consider the context here. He's played in just 17 games this season, and so he's been back since they kind of worked out a little bit of a deal with his illness, and so he's been logging limited minutes since returning, but his presence could loom large tonight. I mean, he's gonna have to have a solid game if Atlanta is gonna be able to get a victory over this tough Denver team. I mean, even without Nikola Jokic, this is still a solid, well-built team who's also well coached. I mean, that is not to be mistaken. This is a well-coached ball club. Despite losing Mike Malone, I mean, David Adelman has done a very solid job. And so we're going to see how they manage Kristaps Porzingis tonight. He's still probably, I would assume, still on a minutes restriction, which I think he's probably going to be on a minutes restriction for the rest of the year. If I'm being completely honest, being completely transparent, I mean, that's probably his role moving forward. But they're going to need a lot of guys, in their depth, well within their roster to play up to their competition tonight, because it's not at all going to be an easy one. You already got to deal with being elevated, and so being in Denver, the altitude, and so I that's already a factor. That's why people don't like really playing in Denver. But we'll see. We'll see how they come out tonight. Denver, like I said, is going to be without Nikola Jokic, Jonas Valanciunas as well, and Cam Johnson. So they're a little bit thin in the front court. The Hawks need to take advantage. The Hawks need to dominate the paint. They need to get inside. Porzingis' size and shooting could be a major advantage if he's able to stay on the floor. Play like 20 minutes tonight. I think that's fair. I think probably 20 minutes should be enough to get it done. And Yeka Kongu's off the injury report. He missed last game with an injury. Not an injury, but an illness. He's kind of been battling an illness for the past few games now. And it's a legit illness. This is no like cover up for a trade like, we were seeing with Trae Young. Like, this guy's legit sick. And so hopefully he's healed now. I mean, he's off the injury report, so he's going to play. But we need to feed him down low. We need big games from him, Jaylen, and really Porzingis off the bench. Maybe Mo Gay can continue what he started last game and have a good game again for himself. The Nuggets are coming off of a 3-4 road trip that head coach David Adelman labeled very successful, highlighted by wins over Boston and Philadelphia, despite missing much of their rotation. I mean, they have a positive outlook on things. They're a good team. They're a good team. At the center of Denver's resilience has been Jamal Murray, who's probably going to be a first-time All-Star this year. Actually, I'm sure he's going to be a first-time All-Star this year. He recorded a career-high 17 assists on Wednesday night and is averaging 26 points, 11.5 assists, and 6.8 rebounds since Jokic went down. He's fully stepped into a role as the number one option, and it's been pretty remarkable to see. I mean, he has been killing it. Murray described his approach as a balancing act, being aggressive without dominating, creating without forcing. He's been exceptional. Friday night presents a very fascinating test. Dyson Daniels is going to have to do a great job on Jamal Murray if the Hawks want any chance to win this game. If he starts a little bit of a heater, then yeah, we might be cooked. But we've got so many guard defenders that can potentially stop him that I'm not too worried. Friday night presents a fascinating test. A Hawks team is redefining itself against a Nuggets team surviving through adaptability. So for Atlanta, this game isn't just about the result, it's about identity. And so this can be a huge momentum shift moving forward. This is the first game with Trae Young not on our team in 8 years. It's crazy that I'm even saying that. It's crazy that we even got here. But we have got here. It's a new era of Hawks basketball. It's the Jaylen Johnson era. Buckle up. This should be a fun one. And so now we are going to close today's episode looking at some of your comments. Obviously, we got a good bit of comments on last episode because we broke the news of the Trae Young trade. I mean, come on. You guys, of course, had a lot to say. I mean, for good reason. And so I definitely wanted you guys to comment on that. And you did. You left several great comments. And so I'm going to be responding to 3 of them in today's episode. We're not doing 2. We're doing 3 today. And so at Jeremiah N0130CLY. Wow, that was a bit of a tongue twister. Maybe let's get a little bit of a shorter username. Come on. But he said, does Kispert make Luke expendable? I hope so. Trae needs his jersey retired expeditiously. And so... yes, I agree completely that Trae needs his jersey retired. Actually, I don't know if you guys read my article that I wrote yesterday morning, where I was just kind of giving all my thanks to Trae Young. I mentioned in that article that Trae seriously needs his jersey retired. It should be up there with Dominique Wilkins and Dikembe Mutombo and Bob Pettit. There's no reason it should not be up there. He's the clutchest player in franchise history. Led us the furthest in the playoffs he's ever been. Was here for 7 seasons. Fully embraced the city. Had some of the franchise's most iconic moments ever. I mean, I don't even think it should be a debate. Obviously, this wouldn't be a thing that would happen until after Trae retires. But I think it'll happen. I think they'll do it. It's inevitable that Trae will get his jersey retired here. I mean, for some reason, like people are kind of seem to disagree on that front. I don't think it should be a debate. I don't think anyone should ever wear number 11 in Atlanta Hawks history again. But back to your first question, you said, does Kispert make Luke expendable? Yes, he does, without a doubt. From everything I've heard, the Hawks really like Corey Kispert. This isn't just a guy who we're bringing in just to match match Trae's salary. I think they really view him as a legit rotation piece, moving forward for the next few years. They like his scoring ability. He's a versatile scorer. A lot of people just seem to think that he's just a 3-point shooter. But he's not a good defender, but he's at least a better defender than Luke Kennard. But he is a better finisher at the rim than Luke Kennard. I mean, that is one of his highest qualities. He's a great finisher at the rim. He's sneaky athletic. He's got good size on the wing. Yes, he 100% makes Luke Kennard expendable. And honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I think Luke probably gets moved ahead of the deadline. I'm really like, this is why I'm picking this one to respond to, because I did want to kind of mention the fact that Kispert makes Luke very expendable, and this probably is the nail in the coffin in Luke's tenure here. He's on an expiring deal. I'm very confident as of Friday, January 9th, that we're probably going to end up moving Luke. So I appreciate the comment, Jeremiah, and we'll see what they do as the deadline approaches. And yes, Trey absolutely needs his jersey retired. So at dy/p4n, what are these usernames today? I appreciate y'all commenting, but come on, let's get some shorter usernames. He said, "How do you think about the idea? What do you think about the idea of trading JJ to the Spurs for our 2026, 2027 first round picks and some young talents like Dylan Harper?" Come on. This is I mean, let's rule out all like realisticness and let's just look at this on paper. I like the Spurs wouldn't do that. Like, no, I don't even think anything about this trade actually. I think this is great. This is honestly like, maybe we should put down Fanspo. I don't know. I don't know. This is an interesting one. I do think that like Jaylen Johnson and Victor Wembanyama would probably be one of the best front courts in NBA history. They're kind of like a perfect fit for each other, considering, the way, Jaylen Johnson's shortcomings defensively can be, adjusted because they have Victor Wembanyama down low and who can also guard multiple positions. There's that. So like on paper, that's probably the best front court duo you could ever dream of. However, the Spurs would never do this. The Hawks would never do this. It's a fun hypothetical. I appreciate the comment, and I love seeing stuff like this because I'm like, wow, like this is interesting. And Dylan Harper, like, is gonna end up probably being a top 3 rookie in his class. Like I don't even know if the Spurs would part ways with Dylan Harper for JJ straight up. Like Jaylen's obviously a much better player now, but if we're looking at these guys' ceilings, like Dylan Harper might, I don't know if he has a higher ceiling than Jaylen, but it's pretty close. So they would never attach picks with Dylan Harper. I appreciate the comment. And then continuing on our trend of just great usernames, at phony said, well, phony phone said, Schlenk played us, period. This is very interesting, actually. Schlenk played us, period. He undermined us with Sar and still paired him with Trey because he knew we would not extend Trey. That's interesting. I've kind of thought about that a little bit because a lot of people were talking about, Trey going to the Wizards because, Travis Schlenk wanted to be reunited with him. And I don't think that was the case. I don't think Trey and Schlenk ended their Atlanta tenure on bad terms, but I don't think it was the best of terms ever. Travis obviously, took the gamble with even trading for Trey in the first place, but I think he was ready to kind of move on in 2022. The year after Trey's immaculate playoff run, and after that Heat series, I think he was ready to kind of move on. So I think that was kind of a rough factor there. And so, yeah, it's very interesting. I don't think he played it. I don't think this was intentional. Honestly, I don't really know how much of a say Travis Schlenk has with the Wizards front office at this point, but it's a very interesting thing to think about. Because when you look at Alex Sarr's camp, I mean, Sarr, obviously, him and his camp didn't want to come play in Atlanta, and one of the biggest reasons they didn't want to was because they didn't want, him to just be overshadowed by Trey and Jaylen Johnson and the rest of these guys who were getting much more on-ball opportunities than he was. They wanted him to kind of flourish with a young core and kind of build to be like the number 1 or number 2 option. And so he's getting that in Washington, and so he's ending up with Trey. Maybe that duo was just inevitable. Maybe Trey and Alex Sarr were just meant to play with each other other. Like, it was written in the stars for them to be a pick and roll duo. I think they can be, like, they're probably going to be a very good duo. Like, I can't wait to see them hit the floor together. Maybe a while before we see Trey suit up for the Wizards. But when they do, like, that is going to be a very exciting duo. So maybe Travis Schlenk just plays. Maybe he was playing the long game and he knew we weren't going to extend Trey, so then he dipped and then went to the Wizards and then was just going to steal Trey from us again. That's very interesting. I appreciate the comments. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update here on the channel. We're going to be pumping out videos every single day, keeping you guys informed on the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. But let me know down below in the comments, what were your thoughts on Luka's comments on Trey? And really just, it's still fresh. Let me know your comments. Let me know your thoughts on the Trae Young trade just in general. What are your thoughts on Derik Queen's revenge game? Yawn. That wasn't any sort of revenge game. And then what are your thoughts on the game tonight? We got a tough one against the Nuggets tonight, but it is the first one of a new era. It should be very, very interesting. Let me know that all down below. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm your host, Zach Langley, a.k.a. Langley ATL, and I will see you guys next time.